The man without fear, Matt Murdock, or better known to most of us as Daredevil, finally got his long overdue and well-deserved silver screen treatment in 2015. After the train wreck that was a 2003 Daredevil movie, everyone thought we'd seen the last of Matt Murdock. Join me today as we take a closer look at Marvel and Netflix's Daredevil. Thankfully, where most people saw a smoldering pit of despair left by Ben Affleck's turn as the man without fear, the creatives at Netflix instead saw clay ripe for shaping. A magical alliance was forged between Marvel Studios and Netflix, allowing this project and others to get off the ground and into our screens. These two gigantic media entities, thankfully, also have a great deal of respect for the source material, and as a result, we get a very compelling series in Daredevil. This partnership gives Netflix the rights to a few lesser-known heroes, and also allows Marvel to expand their constantly or ever-widening Marvel Cinematic Universe. So yes, the events of this show exist in the same universe as the Avengers, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., as well as Agent Carter. It seems Netflix is taking a play out of Marvel's own book here. They're introducing their own cadre of superpowered humans, introducing them one by one, and then eventually bringing them together to form a bigger group of superpowered people, this time called the Defenders. Now, we've already seen this deal produce more fruit in the shape of aka Jessica Jones, and all told, we're expecting 3 more properties to come up out of this partnership. Fan favorites Luke Cage and Iron Fist are getting their own individual series, and we're also going to be getting a Defenders miniseries, which will connect all 4 properties. Thematically, these Marvel Netflix shows are designed to sort of act as a counterpoint from the big shiny Marvel movies. These series so far are much grittier, smaller in scale, and overall pack more emotional heft than, say, the Avengers. This, I think, is understandable, as the vast majority of Marvel's street-level heroes have always been about humanizing the superhuman characters that they show, trying to show us readers and viewers alike that we don't need to be more than human to be a hero, we just need to know to give it our all. Anyway, enough background, let's get down to the nitty-gritty of things. Fair warning though, I'm not going to be delving into plot-specific bits and pieces here. What I'm going to be doing is just taking a look back, as sort of an overview of the entire season so far, and with as few or possibly no spoilers at all. I'm of the belief that the first time you should view any piece of media, it should be a more personal experience, so you can form your own opinion about it. Now, Daredevil is a series that revolves around a blind lawyer from Hell's Kitchen in New York, in the person of Matt Murdock, played here by Charlie Cox, whose only previous acting credit I can seem to remember is the love-struck Tristan from Stardust. Here he portrays a man who we soon find out takes the words differently abled to its logical extreme. Though blinded in a childhood accident, Murdock's day job as a lawyer allows him plenty of opportunities to be an unflinching badass in his own right. With his best friend and firm partner Foggy Nelson, played here by Eldon Henson, they stand up for the little guy, and they try to make sure that whoever's guilty gets what's coming to them. Though a brilliant defense attorney by day, it's Murdock's nighttime activities where he expresses a more physical and undeniably more satisfying brand of criminal justice. When the sun sets, Matt puts on a mask, and as Daredevil, he prowls the streets of Hell's Kitchen, giving aid to whoever needs it and dishing out a beating to whoever deserves one. Now, for those unfamiliar, this may sound just a little bit ridiculous. I mean, you might be tempted to think, how can a blind guy be a crime fighter? How does he see things? How does he punch? Now, remember that regular old logic tells us that when we lose one of our senses, say for example our sight, our other senses learn to compensate. But this is a comic book, and comic book logic tells us that the liberal application of chemicals, like the kind that got splashed all over little Matty Murdock, will not only allow our remaining senses to compensate, but it also allows them to become heightened to a superhuman degree. Effectively, Matt's other senses work together to give him a different sort of vision. It resembles echolocation, but augmented to an extreme degree by his sense of balance and sense of touch. It also helps that he was raised by Battling Jack Murdock, Matt's father, who was a talented boxer in his own time, and at one point, a true world heavyweight contender. The series is structured in a typical serialized format. Each individual episode presents its own storyline. However, there is a common thread that runs through the entire season, culminating eventually in a battle versus good and evil. Story-wise, Daredevil lends itself very well to the series format rather than a movie, as it allows us to really go on a journey with Matt, as he's gradually learning his strengths and, more importantly, his limitations. See, despite being labeled a superhero, behind the mask, Matt Murdock is still just a man. He bleeds, he bruises, and he fares no better than mere you if he gets knocked around a few times too many. The true essence of what really makes Matt Murdock a superhero, then, is his internal fortitude, his unrelenting need to have justice served. Now, heroes are only really as good as their villains. In this case, we have the formidable Kingpin, also known as Wilson Fisk, played by the even more formidable Vincent D'Onofrio. An interesting choice for sure, and initially a very testy performance, but as time goes on, you either learn to love it or you completely hate it. I've seen it go both ways. Undeniably, the show does take quite an interesting look at the Kingpin character, showing us when he's barely just or he's still starting his empire. An interesting turn which draws a very nice parallel to Matt's own journey to becoming the character we know and love. In short, this isn't yet the mad, cackling, rotund Wilson Fisk that we've come to expect. Instead, D'Onofrio brings a quiet, dignified intensity to the role, as well as a sort of vigorous idealism, with glimpses of madness and rage bubbling just beneath the surface. Truly a refreshing change to see a villain fleshed out so well. Charlie Cox takes everything in stride as a titular character. His portrayal of Matt Murdock and Daredevil has a very nice organic growth arc to it. At the start of the series, Cox's Daredevil seems very hesitant and reserved, constantly second-guessing himself before taking action, and just in equal parts regretting those actions that he takes. Clearly, still Matt Murdock as the man behind the mask. As the series progresses, however, his Daredevil persona becomes more and more distinct, leaving us with two facets of the same man. Cox takes his opportunity and really owns it, giving us the closest look at what it might really be like, or what the day-to-day life might really be like of a masked vigilante. Aside from those two, the performances of the cast work very well together. Eldon Henson as Foggy Nelson plays the funny but grounded friend, acting as a perfect foil to Cox's sometimes wild Murdock. Deborah Ann Wall as the damsel in distress Karen Page, who's being framed for murder, kickstarts the entire series and gives the partners Nelson and Murdock their first real case to defend. Rosario Dawson also makes an appearance as the badass Claire Temple, a nurse who helps tend to Matt's and presumably other heroes' various medical necessities. The overarching theme and feel for the entire first season is that it's really an origin story. We see Matt's growth into his Daredevil persona, Kingpin becoming the diabolical mind we expect him to be, and we also see how the mythos of the Daredevil character slowly builds up over time. But it's really the little things that help us care about Matt. More than once, we see Matt almost lose his life in pursuit of justice, and every single time I'm on the edge of my seat thinking if he's gonna be okay. I mean, I know logically he can't die because it's his series, but the portrayal of it, the circumstances, the context of it is just so real, you can't help but feel worried. We also see Matt figuring out his costume gradually over time. The signature all-red duds that Daredevil is most known for doesn't magically show up on day one. He tries out various iterations and configurations over the course of the entire season until eventually we get the real deal. Again, showing that this property works better as a series, as that entire costume arc would have been just another 1 minute and a half montage if it were part of a movie. One last thing worth talking about is the fight sequences. Now, Daredevil as a character has always been known as a hand-to-hand martial arts combat expert, and they've really nailed that in this series. They've really done top-notch work here, as each and every fight sequence feels like it's a real fight, not some choreographed dance most productions end up shooting, but rather, as an example, if there's too many bad guys in the room, Daredevil's gonna get his ass beat. So instead, he has to resort to his wit and to use the environment to his advantage to make sure he doesn't die. There's a particular sequence towards the end of the season, around I think episode 10 or 12. That's just a masterclass showing how fight sequence should be shot and how it should be shown. In so few words, it's a single take, lots of bad guys, lots of broken doors, lots of broken limbs. It's just an epic fight for sure. To wrap this up, all that's left really to say is that Marvel, Netflix, and the showrunners have done a great job in getting this series or this show to come together. I think what it is that they just really paid attention to the source material, and they were able to make it palatable for new audience and fans alike. You should be, doing yourself a huge favor and just go and watch Daredevil right now. Season 1 is available on Netflix at the moment. You can binge the entire 13 episode run in time to catch the season 2 premiere. Season 2 was actually released March 18th. So if I were you, I'd call off work, grab some snacks, and strap myself down. It's time to watch some Daredevil. And as always, I will be extremely grateful if you go ahead and hit the like and subscribe buttons below. Tell me also in the comments what you want to see in the next videos, also what you liked or what didn't like in this video itself. Again, I hope everyone has a safe and fun weekend, and always remember, stay illuminated.